Welcome back, Legion of the Lariat. I've taken the reins back this week. We are now
Boo.
back to your normally scheduled program. Joining me, as always, my tag team partner, my PIC, if you will, partner in crime, Mr. Showtime, Michael Wright. My name is Steve Zapf. This is I Still Call It a Lariat. We are a pro wrestling podcast, unlike any that you have ever heard before. Actually, we're probably a lot like most of the ones you've heard before, but we're way better because it's us and not everyone else. Showtime, how you doing tonight?
Oh, you know me, Steven. I'm living the dream.
You got to, my friend. Real quick shout outs as always. I will, of course, shout out Coal Mine. They are a podcast that has been a friend of the show. They shout us out. Give them a listen. They're funny, funny guys. Of course, Lindsay Jordan is now part of the Lariat family as far as I'm concerned. She is stuck with us forever, whether she likes it or not. And of course, the nonprofit, Tap Cancer Out. It is on all of our social media stuff. They help out with Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, curecervicalcancer.org, First Descendants, and Tom Coughlin's J Fund. This is a jiu-jitsu organization that donates all of their profits, to these different cancer organizations. This is a big, big deal for me. As I said, it gets posted on our Facebook pretty much weekly and on all of our other social media as well. As always, the links for all of that will be in our description for all of the episode, however you're listening or watching us. And without further ado, Showtime, let's get to the wrestling.
You won't do it.
We got to, unfortunately, sometimes. So, this week, for once, we don't have a pay-per-view this week. I'm actually a little excited that it's just normal, episodic wrestling.
Well, don't worry. Next week you have two of them.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be a little bit rougher. So, one of the things that I would like to bring up is TNA. They are setting up Against All Odds. That's their next pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever you want to call it. The big match that seems to go along with this is the 16-man tag, which is going to be a champions versus TNA All-Stars. In the match are going to be Moose, Eddie Edwards, Alicia Edwards, Masha Slamovich, Brian Myers, Jordan Grace, Mustafa Ali, and the Laredo Kid. Those are all the champions, just so you know. On the other side, for the All-Stars, we have Eric Young, Steph DeLander, broken Matt Hardy. We need to specify on that one. Sami Callihan, Ryan Namath, Danny Luna, Jody Threat, and of course, our boy, Joe Hendry.
I believe.
Showtime, this is a big match, both in the fact that there's a lot of people involved in it, and this is a big match because I think this is something that they need over at TNA. That maybe not so much, I don't want to say a changing of the guard, but something that could kind of shake them a little bit.
Yeah, so I dig this match. I don't dig a 16-man tag match. let me start there. But I dig this match and kind of the way they're setting it up on like who they think their all-stars are. And I know we've been talking about Joe Hendry a lot recently. I really do think that things that he had done recently had put him in this match. The way he kind of took the internet by storm, the way his theme music was trending on Apple and on Spotify. I think that this kind of put him in this match more so than some of the things like him bringing eyeballs to TNA. I won't lie. I started watching TNA more over the last 2 weeks than I had in the past because Joe Hendry got me there. So I think this is kind of like a recognition thing for him. I know there's a lot of great talent in this match, and I just see him kind of being placed in this match kind of elevates him, in my opinion. I want to see him do some cool things in TNA. So I think this is cool, kind of showcasing everybody. There's more eyeballs, I think, on TNA. It's hard to keep track because it's so hard to watch. at this moment in time, because depending on who you have as a cable provider, you may not be able to watch it on your television. You may have to buy TNA Plus. It being a standalone on TNA Plus is always a barrier to watch, so it hurts it a little bit. So I'm pretty excited about this on kind of where they're going with it, trying to build their own stars, and I want to see kind of where it goes next.
To piggyback off what you were saying, that's been one of my complaints about TNA Impact, whatever you want to call it in general, for the last couple of years, is they're on Access, and Access seems to be almost like losing television providers. I know by where I'm at, where it's very Spectrum heavy, they're not on Spectrum. And I
Yeah.
know you said you have Xfinity up there, and they're not on
Now
Xfinity anymore.
I have I don't know about that. I have FiOS and and Axis. Is that how you say it? I always feel like I mess it up. And Axis, their contracts expired in January, so they're no longer on my television where they were last year, but they aren't now. So they're getting less and less coverage on the normal cable platforms where I think most people watch it, and the only way really to watch it streaming, to my understanding, is on the TNA Plus, which you have to pay for extra. And so that's the barrier, I think, to actually watch this content that's out there right now. And it hurts them a lot.
It very much hurts them. I think in general, that's one of the hardest things, because the only distributor that I know of that absolutely carries it is like satellite dishes, like DirecTV and stuff like that. Like those are the ones. Oh, and I would assume that like AT&T Universe probably, or Univision or whatever it's called. I forget what the AT&T brand of television is called, but I think they're directly linked to DirecTV now, so I would assume that they do carry it. And I think they have a very strong link with Access, even as
Mhm.
far as, because I believe Access is a Canadian company overall. Um, but Showtime, I know you recently watched, I believe it was the Under Siege pay per view for TNA, and some of the stuff for just Impact and things like that. And I'm gonna hand the mic over to you, so to speak, and let you get this off your chest a little bit,
Yeah,
so to
I
speak.
got I got a little bone to grind. Or do you know what really grinds my gears? It's the TNA fans. Like, screw you guys. I was watching the uh, uh, Impact last week, and something felt off about the show, and I couldn't tell what it was. Yes, TNA's overall production quality is less than AEW and WWE. The money pyramid is very much stacked against them in that aspect of things, but their production quality isn't like subprime. But as I was watching these matches and these guys going out there, the crowd were just sitting there doing nothing, like they weren't even wrestling fans. Now you don't have to be on your feet and pretending like Jey Uso's out there with all your fireflies going nuts, but like no one even looked like they were happy to be there with some of these matches. If you're going to buy tickets to a wrestling show, go there expecting that you want to be into the action. Like the wrestlers feed off that audience, and these guys were just studs, and specifically the ones in Albany. And not to throw shade at New York, like big fan of New York in general, but the fans at Albany Impact were dud fans. It was more than the action in the ring. There was some pretty solid matches that happened that night, and it really threw me off, and like it took me a minute to figure out what it was. So like, if you guys are going to go to these wrestling shows, go and be excited to be there. Like, I just don't understand like what they were doing out there in the crowd.
So I was almost gonna play devil's advocate on this one, but realizing that TNA is actually traveling again a bit more, and
Mm-hmm.
they are recording, not, I don't want to say live necessarily, but they're recording one show at a time.
Mm-hmm.
My only excuse for them could have been if they're taping several weeks of TV and you're catching the end of the loop. I would give the fans a little bit of leeway and be like, well, we just watched 8 hours of wrestling, or someone there has probably sat through 3 weeks worth of shows or 4 weeks worth of shows and hasn't, is a little burnt out by that point. But it seems as though that's not the case right now. It looks like they are, like you said, they were in Albany.
They're in
It
Albany.
looks like they are traveling quite a bit more than what they were doing. They're trying. They are trying to build a fan base, and I think TNA is actually doing a lot of things correctly. They're giving a good product. Like we've said, this is a strong number three. I think this is something that in America you can sit there and watch TNA as a wrestling fan and be like, hey, this is better than what indie wrestling is. It's not
Mhm.
quite WWE, and it might not even be quite AEW, especially with production value and stuff like that. But it's a really, really good product. And you get good matches, and you have strong, strong wrestlers in that, and great veterans. Guys like Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young just keep this match or keep things going. And it's weird because they're not young, they are veterans. And it seems like they're still wrestling at the same speed that they were, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago at this point.
There's other
So
veterans in other places that look like they're losing a step, and some of these guys aren't. Not to throw shade in particular, but but I'm with you. Like they're putting on solid matches. The wrestling in WWE and the wrestling in AEW are better. It is. It's a better product from top to bottom. But this is not a bad product, and it doesn't deserve to get no sold by the fans.
that's kind of exactly the point is it's not a bad product. Like we've said, it is a strong competition. Honestly, I think if they do a little bit, they could really be fighting with AEW. The You could say that they couldn't because Tony has more money, but money doesn't
It,
necessarily make the product go round. It's about the product, not the finances in this point, if that makes
mm,
sense.
it does make sense. I see where you're coming from. They need a lot of help to catch up to AEW. I think there is a big gap between 2 and 3, and it's production quality, it's the writers in the back, it's even the matches. Like honestly, you can argue that the best matches do actually happen in AEW, because they have constant wrestling all the time. Each match is great. I actually think AEW's problem with their matches is they want every match to be a banger. Where like you have Samoa Joe going up against a jobber, and he's putting on a 15-20 minute match. Like, no, that's supposed to be 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Let it be 4 minutes, and then let's move on. So like I think that's more their problem than anything else. I think that the wrestling quality, the talent is far superior at AEW than it is in TNA, except for a couple guys here and there. Like there are some really good people there, but I think it needs to level up everywhere to be even considered in the same stratosphere as AEW. And we were talking the other day, like the system is a great example of it, right? The guys in the system are guys and gals in the system are great. They're really talented workers. I think they need a little bit work on the mic, and I don't know if it's they need work. They need work on the mic, or the mic needs work to be a better production. And they really need like a manager. I want Jimmy Hart to be their manager now. A new Jimmy Hart, not Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart, like a new kind of Jimmy Hart, which I think would be great, and it would bring a legend to TNA that would get some more eyeballs. I think that would be kind of a cool little swing for the fences for them. And but like everything needs to level up here for it to be really considered the same. I think you find TNA more in the New Japan bucket than the AEW bucket.
Not to shoot down your Jimmy Hart idea because I know I said it was a good one. Honestly, you know who would be good is if he wasn't on contract already. Would probably be who is it with the Final Testament? Paul Ellering. That's right. I,
Mm-hmm.
I, I couldn't find his name for a second. Kept wanting to say Paul Heyman. Don't get me wrong. Paul Heyman would completely make the system. That would all of a sudden in TNA would become a viable number two. I think in
he's
that case.
Yeah, he's too big for this. He would have to be the new
But
figurehead like
Ellering,
that.
I feel like Ellering is almost like just there with the Final Testament, and they're expecting a lot of people to know who he is. When truthfully, he just kind of looks like this little old man that's standing in the corner with no real no real reason for being there. And I'm not knocking Paul Ellering. He is a legend. He has managed some of the best tag teams in the world, if not the best tag team as far as the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, whatever version of them you want to call Hawk and Animal are. if they're not on your Mount Rushmore is kind of a wrong type situation. They're one of the few teams that everyone across the board can agree on. Now then, Ellering, if he can still kind of cut his old promos and stuff and his business mind, and he was always a little bit more intelligent than the other managers were. I think he would be a really good asset to the system, because that's the whole thing, is they're the system and the system works. I think that would be a really cool, him sitting there still with the Wall Street Journal and stuff like that and just being diabolical. I think that would be a good manager overall for them. But
Yeah,
again, this is
I was trying to find
the
something that was under contract. I actually think
that's the
Ellering's
thing
problem.
is,
I think Ellering's problem in the Final Testament is that Karrion Kross is too good on the mic.
yeah.
I don't think they need a manager in that same way that the Judgment Day doesn't need a manager, because like the guys in that group, particularly Karrion Kross, are great on the mic. He doesn't need someone speaking for them.
Well, we know I love that Carrying Cross guy.
Right?
He's a good dude, except for on screen when he kills people.
That he's bad in a good way.
All right. Well, moving on from TNA onto AEW. A little minor bit of news, although this is big for me, for us being classic wrestling fans as we are. A new Dynamite Kid debuted this week, at least debuted on AEW television. Dynamite Kid Thomas Billington. He is actually the nephew of the original, I'm sorry, I don't want to say real, the original Dynamite Kid, Tom Billington. And that would also mean that he is, I believe, a cousin of Davey Boy Smith. If so facto, probably a third or a fourth cousin at this point. Him and his cousin are usually tagging up as the Billington Bulldogs, which is, of course, a nod to the British Bulldogs. I thought he had a very, very good match with Dax. I think Dax, honestly, is one of the best singles wrestlers that AEW has on their roster, even though we don't see much of him we see more of him as a tag team wrestler. His singles run stuff is very good. I think the worst thing that happens for Dax is they don't ever give him a win outside of him beating this kid that up until a couple days ago no one's heard of.
So tonight he's going to lose to Okada.
I would assume that tonight he loses to Okada. Yes,
I'm hoping that's a surprise win for Dax. But
it would be awesome if he did win. But the fact of the matter is, they don't usually give FTR singles wins, which I think is a little bit of a disrespect to them. I mean, disrespect might be a strong word, but it's a little hard to believe that they're going to win when they never win. I think that's one of the things that I kind of hold in regard with. It's not just an AEW thing. It's across the board with pro wrestling. I don't care. Like, a lot of these guys, they're having these amazing matches, and that's AEW, WWE, both sides. They're having great matches. Problem is some of these guys never win. So it doesn't matter how good their match is. I don't think they're a viable threat to whoever they're wrestling. So what's the point of even having them in the ring with that guy? And we're very big on the suspension of disbelief. Well, if I don't believe that you're going to win this match, you're really just holding up time. And unfortunately, I'm a pure wrestling fan. I'll watch the match, but there's still a point where I probably won't want to watch the match. Like, I might not watch it a second time because there's no reason to.
I think the King of the Ring has fallen into this. We know who's going to win. Now that we're in the semifinals or whatever round it technically is, now there is more of a coin flip on who we think is going to end up winning it. But I think the first two rounds really hurt from the law. We know who's moving on from these two rounds.
I absolutely agree with that. I think in general, there hasn't been much surprise for the King of the Ring tournament. But one of the things that, again, I was not surprised about, I know I spoke to you and you were not surprised about, the Mogul Empire beating down Swerve.
The most predictable double cross I've ever seen in my entire life. The surprising part was it took that long for them to actually jump him because I thought it was going to happen minutes earlier.
So just so we're straight, the heel team that Swerve used to be kind of with and then went off and became the biggest babyface in the company stayed heels and beat up the babyface world champion.
Yes, correct. Well,
And
he
we're
had no
all
one else to
shocked.
turn to. No,
Yeah.
no one's shocked. Is anyone shocked? Who said they were shocked? They're lying.
I think people were supposed to be shocked.
They were supposed
Tony
to be shocked.
Schiavone sounded very shocked.
Well, because Tony Schiavone's a champ. My favorite part of
Excalibur sounds shocked through his mask.
my favorite part about that segment was actually after the fact when the Young Bucks and Christian Cage kind of had their little back and forth where it seemed like it was the Young Bucks' idea for Cage to do that. And I dig that kind of storyline where I feel like the Young Bucks are splitting the roster down the middle. Not to say it's like a NWO thing, but like I have a theory on where they're leading this current feud, and with that, I think that we're going to see a new leadership structure come through. And right now, the Young Bucks want to be that leadership structure, and I think they're starting to split the heel side of the roster on their side, and then the face side is going to go on with Tony Khan and his new head of the roster, which, in all honesty, I think it's going to be Kenny Omega.
I feel like it's got to be Kenny Omega.
Yeah, and like, I feel like I built that up a little bit more than I needed to, but the way, like, I'm not sure. I'm on the fence. I keep teeter-tottering around if I think we're going to ever see Omega in the ring again. Because if he's as sick as he says on camera, there's a very good chance we never see him in the ring again. Like, if he has a colostomy bag and he one bad shot can have him die in the ring, he's not going to get back in the ring. That's just not worth it. If that's all kayfabe and it's to build up his return bigger, I'm cool with that as well. But let's pretend for a second that it is that bad. I think that this is more of a setup to give fans hope and that thing that they need in AEW, because it's not going to be Tony Khan. It needs to be someone else that gives him that. And honestly, Bully Ray said that on the Busted Open podcast, where he's like, Tony Khan, Kenny Omega gives the fans hope, and like, I absolutely love that line from that. And that's why I think they're kind of building this 8-man tag kind of to be almost the leadership of AEW. Like, the winner of that is going to take over.
So I know that it would have been hard for them to do this any other way, but I kind of wish that the Mogul Empire turning on Swerve maybe happened sooner. This way we see a little bit of him really interacting with them. And like, I know we're getting a match between him and Brian Cage, and that's going to be the complete cut. But the fact of the matter is we didn't really see him get revenge. He's not going to get revenge about this. He's going to get the one match with Brian Cage. They're probably not going to do anything with it afterwards. And this group that he was associated with for a very long time now just kind of gets shuffled off to the side so that he can pay attention to Christian. I just would have liked to have seen more if they were going to try to make this this should have been a bigger deal, basically, is what I think. And it just doesn't feel like it's as big of a deal as it maybe should be. And even kind of the emphasis on that it wasn't a surprise was that Prince Nana wasn't even out there. And you can't tell me it's because he got jumped or anything like that, because he's taken like pile drivers through tables in the past and been on the show 3 or 4 days later. So
does that mean
it's
that
not the
Prince
same.
Nana's next to double cross Swerve?
I don't think so, because they talk about him. Cage talks about how Swerve and Nana went off and just ignored them. The other reason why I don't think that they do it is even more over than Swerve as champion is Nana's dance. Okay. And it sounds really dumb, but that's a strong enough thing to have over that I don't think you pull it away because it's the one thing that absolutely distinguishes you as a babyface. Because overall, he has great matches, he has babyface matches, but even his promo style is still pretty much that of a heel. You need something that they cheer you right off the bat so that okay, like you're admitting that you're a little bit of a scoundrel. We need to forgive you that you're a scoundrel, that you used to be a scoundrel and that you're not going to cheat even though you kind of talk about how much you cheat.
Yeah, I get that. AEW loves their dancing guys too. Like there's always a little dance here and there.
And Daniel Garcia, there's a lot of dancing. Next up, we have Osprey versus Strong being built up. Will Osprey had a match on Collision. It was a good match. It was with Lee Moriarty, who is a great future superstar. I think he's got great in ring work. I haven't heard much from him on the mic, but his athleticism and everything else that he works with is awesome. Lee Moriarty is also, I believe, engaged or married to Julia Hart. So they have this whole wrestling power couple thing going on behind the scenes. They're both young. These are two people who could very much, as we've said, we've built up Julia Hart a lot over the last couple of weeks. I think Lee Moriarty is another one of those guys where if the right person got their hooks in him, he could possibly be a great superstar. He could honestly be the next Swerve if they got their hooks in them the right way. The match itself was good. I'm not overly thrilled with the way that they're building up Osprey versus Roderick Strong. It just seems like, I know you've said this, they're using the match itself as the build-up. I want more. I want more. And I know you said before we recorded that you didn't think that that's necessarily the right thing, but in my case, I think it's completely the wrong way. Like we see very little interaction out of Roderick Strong and Will Ospreay. We see very little interaction out of Ospreay and the rest of the United Kingdom. We see no interaction between him and Don Callis lately. It's we need more story. He's the most over guy in that company right now. That's actually not even a question. Will Ospreay is the most over guy, and you can make the argument that the TNT title is the number 2 title, but it seems like they're really trying to switch it to be the international title, is their intercontinental, their US title. Like that's supposed to be their number 2 title. And it feels like they're just not building this up enough for that, to get that feeling out of it.
Yeah, what I was saying isn't that they're doing it wrong. This is just AEW style, in my opinion. Like I think they're trying to get more story driven storylines in this company in general. That's what the elite is, kind of them really leaning forward into that, having a strong storyline. I think that they fall into a trap sometimes, being like, we have a match so good we don't need to build it. And I think this match kind of falls into this. These two guys should put on an absolute banger of a match. So I'm expecting that out of them. So like you don't need a crazy draw. Also, in all honesty, tomorrow's Dynamite has Strong and Osprey face to face. So this, like, you might just be jumping the gun, in honesty, where because they don't do a ton of long builds, even like the Osprey Danielson. I feel like they did all that build in 2 weeks prior to the pay per view. There was a couple little things early on when they signed the match, but then you heard nothing about it for a while, and then the 2 weeks prior, it was like bang bang. Osprey was fighting everybody, and they were kind of building towards it. So I just see this is kind of like the way they run these things, and we'll see what happens tonight with at Dynamite on how this is going to fall out when you have Strong and Osprey center to center, and maybe next week you're kind of singing a different tune.
Like I said, I just want more out of it. I don't know. Let's see where it goes. Let's see what happens with this week's Dynamite. See how they build it a little bit more. I also think this could be a really good point for Callis to double cross Osprey finally, and maybe look a little bit more. Hey, it seems like every great babyface has like a heel manager right now in AEW at least.
Yeah, I think the whole company right now is kind of in a big shakeup. Like I think that's kind of Swerve's problem too. Was they were expecting him to be a heel, and then the fans didn't turn on him. They the opposite of turned on him. And so then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we got to go face with him because everyone loves him at this moment in time.
That is exactly what's happening with Swerve.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he's the only guy that I've ever seen that could like smash somebody in the head with a brick and break into their house and still get cheered like he's Hulk Hogan.
I don't know. Austin kind of did that kind of stuff.
Austin could have done it. Yeah, different era though. I'm
Sure,
actually
100%.
surprised.
And Austin's on a little bit of a pedestal and all,
Little,
but like not the
little,
only
little
one.
higher ground, if you will. Uh, Eddie Kingston lost his NJPW openweight strong title or strong openweight title. I'm sorry. He lost it after he lost it to Gabe Kidd, who is a really, really good up and coming younger wrestler. But it was because the Young Bucks and Jack Perry jumped him after Kingston and Bryan Danielson declared themselves as the last two members of the Stadium Stampede match. Most of what they're doing right now seems like they are just setting up the Stadium Stampede. And again, I'm not mad that they're trying to set up more storyline. That seems pretty much like that's what you should be doing right now. I like that. I agree with you. I like that they're getting a little bit more storyline driven with what's going on.
And I think
That
the
means
storyline's going well too. Like I like what they're doing.
I do like what they're doing. I didn't think I was going to, and I'm starting to come around a little bit. It's getting better at least. And to go along with what you said, I'm going to come around and be nice enough to let them try this. Let's see if we've been asking for this and let's see if it works before I
Get
start
off your
knocking
high
what
horse,
doesn't.
Steve. Enjoy it. Enjoy them giving you what you asked for.
I'm trying so much.
Just
The
enjoy what you asked
my
for.
only thing, I know you said this before and I'm gonna say it now. Eddie Kingston had 3 titles like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, he lost all three of them in like 3 weeks.
It seems like he's just I don't know. I've fallen off the Kingston bandwagon that I used to be on a bit. Like I said, I think he's just to quote another wrestling podcaster, he's not playing the hand that he was dealt. Eddie Kingston would be awesome as who he is on the mic. He's great. But then he gets in the ring and he tries to do this love letter to all Japan. And I'm sorry, that's not what I want to see from him. I don't mind him throwing the half Nelson suplex every so often. I don't mind him doing something cool as far as like, oh, this is a move that I never thought I'd see him throw. But the fact of the matter is it takes away from this idea that he's this everyman, that he's the Dusty. I need him to actually be the Dusty Rhodes in this case, where I believe that if I saw him in a bar, I might not want to fight him. And that's kind of his promo style, but that's not his in-ring style, which I think hurts him a little bit sometimes.
He's still incredibly over, and I think that's because of his work rate. Like I was watching this match that they're talking about, and I know that when I joke about like I don't know who it hurts more with the machine gun chops, but did you see him with the garbage can when he was hitting his opponent in the head? He was hitting himself in the head too. It was like he'd hit himself in the head, hit his opponent, and hit himself in the head, and like what are we doing here, man?
Oh, Eddie Kingston.
But like, so let me ask you a question here. This kind of Bucks and Perry jumping Kingston, costing him the strong title. Is this to get him out of the 8-man tag? Because
No,
he's
I
hurt.
don't.
He's hurt right now. He took a nasty
No,
bump to his leg.
I don't think so. I think this might be, hey, to get him soft, but I don't think it's to take him out
So
because who's to take over his spot then at that point?
who would take over his spot? Someone who's definitely not ready to wrestle. Someone who could die in the ring. Someone who's nowhere near being cleared. But maybe Kenny Omega is closer than everyone expects. And he puts it all to risk just to take it to the Bucks. I'm just saying, like, I could see that playing out here.
Okay, I see
You
what
were
you did
against me
there.
until I said it. I could see your
Yeah.
face. I could see your
Oh,
opinion change like that. I'm not saying that's
uh,
what's going to happen, but I'm saying there's a chance.
I know, but you've been right about so much lately, and I almost hate you for it.
I'm
Okay.
I'm telling you, I'm good at this game. I like
Folks, his
doing
name is
this.
Michael Wright. There's a
Yeah,
reason for it.
that's right. There's a right way and a wrong way, and this this would definitely be the right way. By the way, I don't think this is actually going to happen. I know I predicted some things that like this is how I would do it. If Kenny was healthy and you wanted to keep this as a huge surprise, I would book it exactly like this.
I think that would be perfect. It would absolutely
Mhm.
be perfect. And you are completely correct, sir.
Always
I'm
am.
actually mad I didn't see it coming before you said it. And now I'm mad at myself. I'm going
Should
to
be.
cry myself to sleep tonight just thinking about it. But something I will not cry myself to sleep about is going to be Malachi Black versus Adam Edge Copeland. I think this is going to be a good match. I think this is, though this storyline seemed like it jumped around a little bit, I do like this storyline overall. I like the idea of them pushing him to the edge. No pun
Pun
intended this time.
intended. Look
But
what you did.
pushing him over the edge even and just full on making him the rated R superstar that he is. The only thing I don't like about these is because a lot of them are, I guess, House of Black rules or whatever you want to say. A lot of these turned into street fights or no DQ matches or whatever they are. And I think I know some of the things that you've talked about is that Adam Copeland, Edge, whatever you want to call him, has been, for lack of a better word, losing a step. And I think him not getting just normal matches sometimes or trying to move at the speed of some of these younger luchador guys is hurting him because he's not the 6'3", 240 pound super tall lean guy that he was when he first debuted in 1997 anymore. Now he's a well put together 50 something year old man that has man size on him and hasn't done those moves in a very long time. And I kind of want to see him just have some matches, just normal matches.
Yeah, let me clarify. I didn't realize you were going to bring that up. So let me clarify something. I'm not trying to throw any shit at Copeland here. Not at all. But, and for me, I took a nice hiatus off of wrestling. And like when we decided to do this podcast, I'm back in. Like I'm watching everything I possibly can watch. I'm trying to get an understanding of the scene right now. Excuse me. And what I'm seeing is it's almost like there was no break in between that for Adam Copeland, where he was wrestling these high intensity, very fast matches, things I really liked, and you kind of see him trying to do it now as well, and it does look like he's just a half a step behind, or it's a little bit more forced. Where I would like to see him kind of evolve into maybe even a bigger hitter, someone who's smarter and more seasoned in the ring, where he could take down some of these younger guys because he's been there already, and that advantage, the veteran advantage, is there on his side because he can still do pretty much everything. It just seems like half a step slower than it had been in the past. I love this storyline with Malachi Black. There's going to be like I kind of want to talk about the Dynamite card in general because the Dynamite card for tonight is going to be an absolute banger of a night. This is almost like a pay per view caliber card, and and you're going to have Adam Copeland calling out Malachi Black for double or nothing. And I think what's happening right now is we're watching Copeland's heel turn. I think they want to get him back into a heel mentality. Think they want to set it up where Christian Cage and he team up again, and the only way that happens is if Copeland's a heel. I don't think there's any way you can bring Christian Cage back from the dark side. I don't see that path. Like I could make many paths. That one is going to be hard. The only way you could do that is if the entire world is teamed up against Copeland, and the only person to save him is Christian Cage. Like, and it just throws out all of the good work he does. I just don't ever see that happening. So in order for Copeland and Cage to have kind of a team, you need to take Copeland heel. And I think that's what this whole program's about. And I'm excited for it. I'm really pumped for this match. I want to see kind of how these guys work together. I think that they both have really great mic skills. I think they both are fantastic in the ring. So I love where this is going. The rest of this card for tonight is fantastic. You got Strickland versus Brian Cage. You got Moxley and Danielson versus Fletcher and Cobbs. You have Okada versus Hardwood versus Dax. You have the Young Bucks versus Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels. Come on, Daniels. Take these guys down. I'm all like, I don't hate the Young Bucks like Steve likes to throw the hate around, but I am rooting against them at every moment. They want this kind of heel heat. You got it. And I want to see them lose every single time.
Not to mention, even if you don't hate the Bucks, we love Christopher Daniels.
Absolutely love it. It's not hard for me to root for Christopher Daniels in any situation, but they want this kind of heel heat, and they got it. Tony Storm versus Harley Cameron has been a nice build to this match. You have a contract signing between Monet and Nightingale. I'm really intrigued on this one. I don't think I've seen anyone improve week over week as much as I've seen Nightingale do. And like even her mic skills, I feel like have been getting better and better. Last week, I think she had a great promo that she cut on Monet, and better than Monet's promo. So I'm curious on how this face-to-face goes. You have a face-to-face with Roderick Strong and Will Ospreay, and you have Hook's return. So there's a lot of segments for an AEW show, to be honest with you, still with a lot of matches. I think you're going to have, I think this is going to be a great, can't miss Dynamite. Like, you really have to tune in for this one.
So I'm going to agree with you about Willow Nightingale. I think Willow Nightingale might be my, I don't want to say rookie all-star prospect, but she's as close to a rookie all-star prospect as I can see. The only thing that I would like to see them do a little differently with her promos, I think her promos are really, really good. I would like them to steer her a little bit in the direction of not apologizing for injuring Mercedes anymore. She kind of like, I got the idea that you were still the nice girl. I understand what they were trying to do. They're still trying to keep her in this babyface thing. But we've both been in the ring. We've both done these things. If you're in the ring and you're in an athletic competition, and even if they were like, well, because her getting injured makes it seem like Willow won the match on a fluke originally and won that title on a fluke. And almost like Willow is saying herself that she won it on a fluke, and she's trying to talk herself into the fact that she can beat her now. I would prefer it if she was just kind of giving us more of a, look, it sucks that she got hurt, but that happens. We're not doing ballet. We are in a ring fighting with each other over a title. And you got hurt in a fight. That happens sometimes. Suck it up. And I'm giving you a match for this title now.
I kind of like that. I also like the narrative of I can only say sorry so many times. And now it's time to get past it. Like
she needs to stop saying I'm sorry for it. It needs to, it was one thing, hey, I never wanted to hurt you. No one ever wants to hurt anybody. Like, regardless of, unless it's a real blood feud, you can say, I didn't want to hurt you. But also, I'm done saying I'm sorry for you getting hurt while we were in the middle of a fight. You don't hear people apologize in the UFC when someone gets hurt. Like, you can say, oh, I didn't want that to happen. No, because no one wants someone to get hurt.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's, You don't hear about, Chuck Liddell even saying it against grudge matches where if like Tito Ortiz broke his arm in the middle of one of their fights, he would have been like, "Oh, I'm really happy that happened." No, he's happy he won the match though. Everyone's
The
happy when you win the match. You're not happy the guy got hurt, but we're in a physical business. In a
the
physical
pr-
business, people get hurt.
the problem with the build of this match is the more it builds, the more I want Willow to win. Because we haven't seen Monet in the ring, really. We haven't seen any stellar promos come from her. And every single week I see improvement from Willow. I'm starting to root for her in this match. And I think that I feel like it's obvious that Monet is going to win. But I'm more and more not wanting that to happen.
I think if Willow loses this title, this is one of those heel turns. Like you didn't want this to be a heel turn, and now this is a heel turn. You
Yeah,
don't
no,
have a
I don't want
choice
her
in
to.
that.
She's great. She's great as a face. Though I don't
No,
know if
I
I
don't
agree with
mean
that.
Willow turning heel. I mean like you didn't want Mercedes Monet to be a heel when she first came in, and congratulations, she's a heel now because
Uh,
like you wanted her to be a babyface. You wanted this to happen, and if Mercedes Monet wins that title, I think there's going to be some backlash even on that one. And I don't mean like
the
WWE backlash. I mean like I think fans are going to be a little mad that Willow lost the belt. I think fans are going to boo Mercedes Monet out of the building. I think you're going to have to pivot on even how she's doing her promos at this point.
the reason I disagree with you is I think the plan the whole time was to make Monet go heel. I think that's planned, and I wouldn't be surprised if Monet wins by cheating and trying to hurt Willow in this match for revenge. And that's her heel turn. And she gets booed out of the building in the right way, not in the wrong way, as you're insinuating. And so, like, that's the only area I disagree with you on that is I actually think that this has been a heel turn the whole time. And kind of some of the subpar promos we're seeing from Monet is because they're forced. And she just wants to be like, I don't care. I'm the best. This shows it. And if I could have, I would have put Willow in the hospital.
I agree that they feel forced. My thing is just in general, the version of Mercedes Monet right now that we got is it feels very much like we ordered Sasha Banks off Wish.
I've heard that from other people too.
Like
Other
that's where it
wrestlers
is.
are kind of
It's
like
it
that.
Timu, whatever you want to call it. It's the watered down version. It's Sasha Banks if she didn't have as much money as she did. Like everything that even the stuff that she's wearing, like her gear and her outfits and stuff, it looks like subpar WWE costuming.
I
So
mean,
it's just I'm excited about Willow. I'm excited about this week's Dynamite. I agree with you.
and
This looks like a pay-per-view card.
this is fun. This is gonna be a great card. And we didn't mention it with Hook's return. We get more Chris Jericho, and I'm in. I'm back. I'm in the vortex. Can I be in the vortex? Is that
You
the
can
place
be in
I'd
the
be in?
vortex. I am not sitting at the learning tree right now.
What he's done, I know we talked about it last week. What he's done so quickly is fantastic, and he's putting on an absolute masterclass in changing his persona again. And it's so cheesy, over the top face that it's clear that he's a heel. Like that's what I love about it, and the people are starting to cheer him, and he's like changing the FTW title for the world title is so good. It's
I
so funny. It's
listen.
so good.
I will say this. He had a line in his promo this week that absolutely had me rolling, and I haven't been on the Jericho bandwagon at all lately. I will fully admit it. I'm one of those people who believes that there is a Jericho vortex and he is sucking people in. But during his promo, he goes, and then we had to get to the point where Hook basically hit himself in the head with a baseball bat. And I was like, Jesus, this is where we're at. And I started cracking up about it because a line like that reminded me of old school Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
That was an old school Jericho line, and I love that was a man of 1004 moves. That was the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, the your cultural leader or whatever he was called when he was still in WCW. It was all of that. It
I
sounded
think
like
that's
that.
the Jericho we're getting. Is like if you remember the WCW heel Jericho when he was a whiny, like he'd jump up and down and take temper tantrums. That's the Jericho we're about to get. Like he's going full circle, uh, and I can't wait because he's doing this over the top that it's for you, and then he's going to get to a point where it's like, well, nobody appreciates me, and he's going to start taking temper tantrums, and I'm in. Like I said I'm in the vortex. I love it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you were ever out of the vortex.
I mean, I was in the outer rim. I mean, I'm a fan of Jericho. I've always have. I like his wrestling style. I love his in ring work. It's been fantastic his whole career. I was with the group of people who thought that it might be time for him to take a break, and what he's done over the last couple of weeks and changed like that quickly. I really think that he doesn't need to take a break. But this may be kind of a swan song. Like I can see this being his last real push for it, and then kind of taking a break after this.
I think he needs a break after this. I think whenever this arc is kind of come to its end, I think he needs to go away for a little bit because it's it's actually always been the best thing for Jericho is him kind of going away and then coming back. So I think if he goes away and does a tour with Fozzy or something like that, I think that could be the best thing for him. But going away
So
from Chris
so his
Jericho,
real fast before we leave the vortex, his contract runs through December of 2025.
oh, I know he has a long contract.
There's no like maybe he does take a 2 month hiatus or something like that, but I don't think it's gonna be anything long.
I don't need him to take a super long hiatus. I need him to go on tour with Fozzy for 2 or 3 months
Mhm.
and leave television so that we can miss him. Is what I really think it is. I think after this arc, he needs to do whatever he needs to do and be gone for a little bit. Because if he does this arc and then just circles back around and tries to do something else, I think it might almost ruin this. But moving on from the Vortex and us talking about Jericho moving on, let's go across the street. We got some WWE news to go on with. SmackDown this week, we had King and Queen of the Ring advances. I'm gonna say this right off the bat. The one thing I don't know if I like about the way they're doing the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments is that all we're getting are the finals during the pay per view. PLE. I'm sorry.
Boo.
I don't mind them doing qualifiers, and I don't even mind them doing opening rounds. But I would like to see 2 to 3 matches from each person on the actual pay per view itself.
100%. Like I'm so annoyed about this. Like come on, you're just building to like a number one contender match. Like
I'm
I want
so
them to
glad
wrestle
we're
2 to 3
recording right now
times.
because Showtime Michael Wright just agreed with me.
I agree with you sometimes. You're not always wrong.
Yeah, but like full on agreed with me this
I'm
time.
just always right. The
That's fair.
but yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's so stupid. I'm so annoyed about it. Boo.
I just want them to. I wanted like even if they did the semifinals and the finals, like you got 2 matches for each side, but we're gonna get the semifinals this week and then the finals at the PLE, and that just seems I don't know. It seems cheap and it makes it seem like it wasn't as hard to get there. Part of what used to make the King of the Ring tournament so hard was you saw somebody who had to wrestle 2 or 3 times that night. And a lot of times they were doing it hurt from a previous match. And I thought that always pulled people in. But we do
I would
have,
love to see. I would have much preferred to see this be the whole pay per view, and give me the qualifiers, cut it down to half of what we started, and then and then let's go full on. You like if you win the King and Queen of the Ring, you would to fight like 4 matches or something like that. Like really push somebody to their
And
limits.
yeah, not just 4 matches over the course of 4 weeks. Like
No, like in one night.
like I could even see, like I said, doing the opening round. Okay, we did the qualifiers and we're doing the opening round over the next 2 or 3
That's what I
weeks.
mean. Like cut the because that cuts it in half.
And then no matter what, you have the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals all during the pay-per-view. I think that's the right way that they should have done it. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. I think that's how they should have done it.
It's pushing people to the limits that they really need to. Like that's what this tournament's about. Is really finding the one that can rise to the cream of the crop. If you're just doing matches like once a week, that's just any other tournament. Like make it special.
That's exactly what I was saying. It doesn't have that special feel to it. Although we have some advances from SmackDown. Well, SmackDown and house shows. So LA Knight actually spoke about this, that they had 2 advances. One was Tiffany Stratton, one was LA Knight. Advanced into, I guess, the quarterfinals from a house show. And certain people were like, well, that's awesome that they advanced, but they're 2 of the biggest stars and they did it on a house show. LA Knight's response was, well, having us win it means that these matches that we're doing on the house show actually mean something. So you have to start going to house shows as well. I agree with him on this.
100%.
I like the idea that these house shows need to have some significance too. I remember thinking back in the day that just the random shows that they would announce that they were doing promos for Madison Square Garden actually meant something, because you would get Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter for the world title. And oh my God, like this is a Desert Storm match or whatever they called it, where it was a no hold bars match. Like this is a match where, oh, if there was rules, Hogan was definitely winning, but there's no rules, so Sarge might really win this one. And it just even matches, IC title matches. I remember IC title matches, even up until the mid '90s, they were losing the Intercontinental title every so often on house shows, and I thought that was huge. That was awesome. So this is one aspect of the tournament I do enjoy.
I agree.
But the majority of this tournament should still have been on the PLE.
With that it should have been at least the semifinals and the finals. Because I'm doing the math right now, right? Like if we're doing what we're saying, like you do the first round off of it, then that leaves 7 matches per tournament, and I just don't see how they can fit 14 matches on a PLA. That's just a lot,
especially one that's in a different country.
So then you're talking about 6 matches combined between the 2 of them on a PLA, which you could very much do. Now that only means that you wrestled 2 matches in that night, but at least you wrestled twice in that same night.
And if you do something where you're either coming into it injured or get injured early in that first match,
in that first one, yeah,
then I've got a little bit more for it. So far from SmackDown, the advancements were Nia Jax, Jade Cargill, Bianca, and Tiffany Stratton. And then for the men, we have Carmelo Hayes, Randy Orton, Tama Tonga, and LA Knight. I don't know if I agree with Tama Tonga being in this tournament. I feel like there's too much storyline going on with Direct Bloodline to have had any of them really be in this tournament. That's the only one that I'm a little questionable on. Other than that, I would like to see from SmackDown, I'd like to see LA Knight win. If I'm just saying who I want to win, who I like in this whole thing. And then I know we've talked about this. It seems like Tiffany Stratton seems like the perfect person to win this whole thing, right? Like
I'm rooting for Tiffany. And like I know that like I feel like I've taken a full swing around where I was like, I don't want you to push her too quickly. This is where you push her. Like I like the idea of King Queen of the Ring, you giving it to someone that can really propel them to the next level, the next stratosphere. Did that work?
I think
There's no
she
one
does
else here
say
to do
things like
puns.
that.
So like I
I know
think
she
that
has
like
the Tiffany epiphany, so
I don't want to see anyone being the king and queen insert name here afterwards. I think that's dumb, and because I think it's just so hard to kind of make that work, and it's done. Everyone's over it at this point in time. But I think Tiffany Stratton, I think you've said it with a little tiara or something like that, to like acknowledge that she's the queen of the ring, but not Queen Tiffany. I think could really take this, and this is what takes her to the next level. I think taking a win over Bianca Belair in the next round is huge for her. And let her cheat, let her do whatever you want to keep Bianca looking strong. But I think that is huge. And then you're gonna have Nia Jax versus Cargill, which I'm really, really interested in how this is gonna go down. And like the booking for some of these things, like I think that right now they have no idea how to book Naomi. One day she's getting beat, the next day she's world champion material, then she's getting beat again. I don't know what they're doing with her. So like, is it that they're pushing Nia Jax to actually beat Cargill? I don't know why our tag team champions are even in this tournament to begin with. And I feel like either that or they're building for Cargill versus Belair. And then in that sense, if they're doing that, I hate that. I want that later. I want that in 6 months. I want that at WrestleMania.
I think that is where they're going, and I don't like it. I don't like it for several reasons. One, we haven't established Jade as enough of a star yet for me to want this.
Yeah.
Now then, if at the end of this, if we get some type of Tiffany Bianca program coming out of this, I'm kind of okay with that. The problem is it's still not going to be anything more than a slight program because you're still going to have Jade and Bianca being the tag team champions.
Right. Like, what are we doing here with them?
I will say this: there is one other thing that could be coming out of this, and I don't know if I'm okay with it. And this is me looking real deep into this at this point. They have shown on social media that Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton are actually friends. Like they travel together, they hang out together. If at the end of this, Tiffany and Nia go after the tag team titles against Jade and Bianca, it could be a nice little program.
Yeah,
But that,
honestly, I don't see anyone else being able to go toe to toe with those two, with Cargill and
that's what I'm saying is you get Nia who can match the size aspect, and Tiffany who matches the athleticism and the actual the true pure strength that Bianca brings to the ring. Because I think I know she might not appear it. I think Bianca is actually pound for pound stronger than Jade. We're just not talking about it like that because Jade looks the way she does.
So
She's supposed to be the powerhouse.
In this scenario where Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton tag up, who wins Queen of the Ring? Because it has to be someone from Raw, right?
Maybe Io.
Is it Io?
Maybe.
Is it Asuka?
Can't be Asuka. Asuka's injured.
Oh yeah, she's out of this, right?
She's out of it, and I think Dakota Kai's out of it now too, isn't she?
She is. She lost. Is it Valkyrie?
It might be Lyra Valkyrie because that would be a nice push for her coming in. Same thing. Like
I could see that taking like giving one of the new ones in the women's, like coming out there and winning one where Nia Jax and both Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton sabotage Cargill or whoever. I don't hate that. I just hate Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill right now. There's no build to it. I already have the storyline all mapped out. They tag together. They're dominant for a little while. They get into a fight because who's better, and then at WrestleMania they go head to head. That's the story I want to say. Don't deviate from the script.
So one of the other people in this tournament that I think is suffering from the fact that this match or that the tournament's not on the PLE is honestly, I think, Carmelo Hayes. I think Carmelo Hayes is one of those guys that if you gave us him versus Orton or him versus Tama Tonga or even him versus LA Knight and you advanced them in the quarterfinals, and then you had somebody like Randy Orton or somebody like that win in the final or in the semifinals to give a real all-star in the finals. I think Carmelo's one of those guys that could benefit from that, where we're just seeing him have good matches right now. And him having a good match every week isn't as important as him having a banger of a match on the pay-per-view itself, followed by a match with an all-star like a Randy Orton or an LA Knight or a psychopath like Tama Tonga, where maybe you lose it there. Or even on the other side, what was it? Jey Uso and Gunther advanced. Okay, well, you have him have this banger of a match against someone like Tama Tonga or against Gunther, and you have him lose against Gunther or win. I think that builds you. I think either way, you build Carmelo up better if the matches or if the show has all these matches on.
I don't
And I
think there's
think
any way that Hayes gets it out of next round.
I don't think so either. But that was the thing, is if we had it on the opening match on the pay-per-view itself, I think he would get a better rub out of it.
Sure.
I think it would look cooler for him.
I dig the storyline they have for Hayes right now. He's the cocky young kid, and I think he's going to make a mistake, like a clear mistake against Randy Orton, and that's what's going to make him lose. It's going to be a little bit of a wake-up call, and you have to like see how he bounces back from that loss. Because it just makes too much sense to have the finals being Orton versus Tonga. And then I think we're going to see Tonga in the finals.
I could see that.
Because you have bloodline shenanigans.
I
Like
could see
Orton's
that
already
as
fighting
well.
with them. Solo comes out, spikes him, and then I personally think it's good. I think it's going to be either Gunther or Uso in the finals too. We know that already, so that's why I'm making it a thing. I'm on the fence on which one it is. I actually think that Jey Uso, he has the most to gain by winning this and having the finals be Jey Uso versus Tama Tonga. I mean, it brings everything full circle, doesn't it? Like, just makes too much sense for it not to be that.
So I think that's one of the other things I don't like about this is it seems like the brackets are set up where it's Raw only versus SmackDown only until the finals. And I don't know if I like that either.
That's every playoff. That's NFC versus AFC. That's the brand splits. How else would you do it?
So I think that's why I don't like that it's not on the this just goes back to me griping about it not being on the pay-per-view. If it was on the pay-per-view, you could do it how you could have them just, hey, these are the guys that qualified. We're gonna shake the hat up and pick out names, and this is where they're gonna go. Like I said, I think I get what you're saying. It leaves it a little bit more predictable in this sense. Because let's face it, I think a lot of people are leaning towards Gunther, and you and I are leaning towards Jey Uso.
I just think it's wasted on Gunther. Like, that's my problem with it. Like, he does not need King of the Ring. His thing was the longest reigning IC champion. I feel like you give King of the Ring to someone who needs that little extra step, and Jey Uso never being able to win the thing in the moment is his current storyline, and that's why I think that he gets here. I actually could kind of see them giving it to Tama Tonga now that I've talked myself into it, due to shenanigans, and I hate it, but I can see it happening.
I could also see them doing LA Knight just because it feels like they've taken a step back off of LA Knight, and it seems like that would be the right way to turn the corner a little bit. Like, hey, we're gonna throw you this bone.
I think they have no idea what to do with LA Knight right now.
I don't think so either, especially now that we have a WWE Undisputed Universal Championship match set for King and Queen of the Ring. So I will say this: one of the things that was brought up by good old Bully Ray. I have two things. One, why is it called
You're not going to talk about how right I was first?
First, let me get to that.
Okay,
First, how is it the undisputed title? There's another world championship, right?
that's a fair point. Uh,
If you're trying to say that the other world title is as important, or even like barely a step under it, like not even a full step, like it's just on under the lip, your other world title means garbage if you're calling it the undisputed title.
I see what you're saying. I think we're taking this too literal, and I like to take everything too literal. So I get where you're coming from. I think the brand split makes the need for a second main title, and
I'm not
that's the
disagreeing with
difference.
that. My issue is in the name. If they had just called it the WWE title, if they had said the WWE Universal title, if they had said anything else other than undisputed title, because the second you use those words, the other title seems less than adequate.
I I want to disagree with you, but I'm not going to disagree with Billy Ray.
That's fair. Now then, on to Michael's pick of being right. Yes, I will
Tell
give you your
tell
flowers.
me about it.
So apparently, Logan Paul is in fact the New Jersey of pro wrestling.
Told you. Compliment.
The one thing that I will say, and I know we've agreed on it, is I don't know if I necessarily like how they just paraded him out as the challenger. I would have liked it. I would have
Really
liked a
dislike
little bit
that.
of a build up, maybe some talking points to it, something, anything else. But they kind of just brought him out, right? Like
They gave him his ring of roses to say that he was worthy of this shot, and I wanted him to anoint himself. That's the character he has, and that's what he needed to do in order to get this over really well as a heel. Like, you could have done the same promo, have the two of them in the middle of the ring talking about who the number one contender is supposed to be, and we're really not sure on who you should face next. And then Logan Paul's music hits, and he comes up and he goes, "I'll tell you who you should win, the one that's really carrying this company on their back. It wasn't you that got us to this great, how wrestling's cool again. It was me with my 11 billion followers. That would have been way better than what they did."
that's kind of exactly my point. Is it just seems so? Again, this also goes back to something Bully Ray said recently, and I'm going to put it to you this way. Did you believe that AJ Styles was going to win the world title against Cody Rhodes at Backlash?
No,
Did anybody?
no,
Oh, okay. Do you believe that Logan Paul is going to beat Cody Rhodes for the world title at King or
no,
Queen of the Ring? Does anybody?
no. Tell me.
So
Well, let me take a step back here before. And sorry to interrupt you. I don't mean to, but who on the roster do you believe can take him down?
I don't know right now, and that's the issue. Is we're not building him into a feud. We're just giving him matches, and this also goes along with what I'm going to kind of quote Bully Ray on this one. So
We gotta
Bully
stop
Ray,
using him as content here.
yeah. So recently, I'm giving him his credit on this one. He is the one who said this, but I agree with how he said it. Was Cody currently is Rocky at the beginning of Rocky 3. He won the title, and I'm not saying that these guys are tomato cans. Like they're like he said, these aren't just they're but they're not believable contenders. Kind of how Mick was protecting Rocky. Like you're giving them these guys that they're good fighters. I'm not saying it's on that level, but I get what he's saying, and I agree with what they're saying. Is you're just giving them matches to have good matches at this point. We're not building them into a feud, and it very much goes along with. And I will wholeheartedly admit that I could be wrong with when I say this, but kind of how you said they have no idea what they're doing with LA Knight currently. Last week, outside of doing this, it seems like they don't know what they're gonna do with Cody currently without Roman or The Rock or anyone else, it seems, because the only real person that I could see going after Cody's title that gives us intrigue at this point is Orton. And he's so engulfed in being a babyface currently that we would need to build for him to be for him to be a real heel.
There's
And
no good heels on SmackDown right now outside
that
of the Bloodline.
that's what I'm saying is it, and you can't just have Solo go after him. You can't just have the Bloodline go after him. Like that just doesn't work right now because you don't have Roman there. Tama Tonga isn't the answer. Tonga Loa is not the answer. Solo is not. Not to diminish what Solo has done, but he's not world title contender. Even if you bring in Jacob Fatu at this point, Jacob Fatu right off the clip is not the guy to make me believe that he's going to dethrone Cody. I don't know who it is other than Randy Orton. The problem is they flip flopped a couple guys too that I think could have made me believe it if they had stayed heels. Prime one would have been Bobby Lashley, but they flip Lashley babyface. You know, they flip him around from heel to babyface like no one knows what he's doing this week. Like him and the Profits are faces right now, but 3 months ago they were heels, and they never told you why they were baby faces all of a sudden, other than Karrion Kross beating the crap out of them. That's the only reason why. There was no reason for the attack other than, well, we're baby faces now. It kind of killed it. So that's where I'm saying I agree with what Bully Ray was saying. Is this feels very much like you're just feeding him guys who we all know aren't going to win the titles right now.
This is the beginning of the next chapter in the story, or whatever you want to call it. I have no problem with the first couple things being softballs. You've done so much to build him up to be able to be the one to dethrone Roman. And like no one could beat Roman. Then you're gonna expect someone to come up next at bat to be able to beat Cody. Like I just think you're like you and Bully Ray are asking for something that just doesn't exist right now. Like there is no one on this roster that I believe can take down Cody on either show. I don't think Damian Priest could take him down. I don't think that Drew McIntyre could take him down. I'm not buying that CM Punk could take him down right now. Like I don't think there's anyone on this roster currently that is believable on taking Cody down, except for Roman. And he's not here. I'll give you The Rock too, because he's the final boss.
What about and again, we're going active roster currently, or active, healthy roster at least. They're gone because they're doing their Hollywood stuff, which I'm not even bringing that up in a negative term. What I'm saying is, so what about Seth? What if Seth comes back and goes after him?
Hasn't he beaten Seth 3 consecutive times?
3 consecutive times. I'll
there's
say
only
this
one
again. We're kind
of. There's only one name you can say that's potential could take him down.
Exactly, and that's
Gunther.
So I'm gonna say it this way: what if whoever wins the King of the Ring gets a title shot of their choosing? What if it's Gunther then?
Sure, I still think he loses though. I'm going into that match assuming Cody wins.
It's just, again, it's murky water that we're sitting in right now, just because
you've spent 2 years building him up to be the guy to be able to dethrone Roman. You can't expect 2 weeks later that there's going to be someone there that could challenge him. Like, what are you looking for?
I don't disagree with you.
The only way that happens is if you have a brand new signing that hasn't been here the whole time. Like you let's say you bring Danielson in, or you brought Swerve in, or Samoa Joe in, like someone from AEW that hasn't.
MJF.
Yeah, MJF. Then you're starting to like, okay, I still don't buy it because of what they've done with Cody, but like that's the only way you could cement that. Like the Raw after Mania would have been perfect to like, or the SmackDown after Mania would be perfect to drop somebody new right on the
into the
brand
mix.
and just say this is who it's going to end up being, or like start building that person. Because otherwise, I just there's just no one like you can't expect that.
What about I mean, not right now, obviously. Good old Braun Breaker.
In a couple months, maybe like let him tear through Imperium outside of Gunther. Have him tear through a couple guys that you didn't expect because he's on that like that squash streak right now. Like have him go out there and squash Finn Balor. Have him go out there and squash Chad Gable.
And then maybe have
Eh,
him have a banger of a match with Gunther, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
he's, whether
now
he
he's
wins or lose,
legitimized.
now he's up there where we start maybe talking about him winning the Royal Rumble next year.
But you're also talking about two guys that aren't on the same brands, and like that really doesn't matter right now, right? Like I don't know what the winner of the King of the Ring ends up getting. It's a world title shot, but is it your brand world title shot? And if that's the case, there's no one on the SmackDown roster that's even close.
So I don't think I don't even think that's on the table. Truthfully, the next person that has a guaranteed world title shot is going to be whoever wins Money in the Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on from SmackDown a little bit, and like you said, I agree with you with all that stuff too.
Of
It's
course, you
just
do. I'm always right.
it
It's
was
right there in the name.
it was a very good point by Bully Ray, and I wanted to bring it up because it was one of the things that was brought up on a couple different wrestling websites news is that he said it like this. And I was like, well, I agree with how he said it. He's not wrong. He's just, but it's also who else do you put in there?
Yeah,
So
I'm glad I talked myself into disagreeing with him.
so moving on from SmackDown, we have Raw. Raw kicks off with a Drew McIntyre segment, which is interrupted by Damian Priest. I thought this was a really good segment. I
I
thought
liked it.
I really liked kind of how they did it. I've been hearing a bit that they're giving Priest a little bit more carte blanche to say what he wants, and I
You could
think that
tell.
helps.
Like I don't think that Drew expected some of the things that he was going to say. Like his looks of surprise were almost like breaking character. He's like, all right, all right,
And it seems better this way, obviously,
yeah.
because he's more comfortable in what he's saying. It's not someone writing stuff out for him. The one thing I will say, and I was really happy when Drew did it the first time, but now that it's been done a couple weeks in a row and it's been done by a couple different people, I'm over the bringing up the what chant. Like I really liked it when
I like
he
it.
was.
I think it's funny.
So I really liked it when Drew did it the first time, and I thought it was hilarious when he was like, if you guys suck, say what? What? Ha ha ha! Like it was great the first time because I've been waiting 15 years for someone to do it. It was great when it's even great if he's the only one that does it. But the
Yeah, he's not.
second Dakota Kai did it, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you lost me. Now you have Drew McIntyre, who is a main event player. There is no doubt in my mind he's a world title contender. He's a bona fide, whether you want to say it was the opening match or the main event, he went after the world title at WrestleMania. He's a main event guy. He keeps doing it, it's fine. Dakota Kai, regardless of if she is the de facto leader of Damage Control,
She's not. It's EO. They even called her that.
but that group in general, like you can say, okay, EO was the WWE Women's Champion, but they're kind of a mid card group. You can say upper mid card, but it doesn't change the fact that Dakota Kai, who is a mid carder, just stole on the same show Drew's bit. Like she did the same thing that Drew did on the same show.
WWE does this constantly where they double dip on these shows. Like there was even on, I think it was Raw, where it was was it SmackDown? I think it was the Orton match and another match where they wrestled essentially the same match. Like the women did it and the men did like the same match where they worked the leg. It was the Bianca match and it was the Orton match where they were both wrestled the same way, and I was like, "This is the same match. I'm watching the same match over again." So I get you, and in all honesty, Dakota Kai is kind of a jobber right now, not even mid card. But I do disagree on where you're putting Damage Control. They just hit a low, but they've been main event for the longest time. Like Io was just world champion, and they were tag team champions. They had all the gold.
My
That
but
was a month ago.
but my point is still Drew is way up the card compared to them, even if you want to say that they are main eventers. Like there are different tiers to even the main event, and Drew is on a
Sure,
different one. And if he is doing something and he's involved in a program with Damian Priest, who is your world champion, and his other side of the program is CM Punk, who is arguably
sure.
what is he the top 3 star in the company outside what Roman, Cody, CM Punk. They're probably your 3 biggest stars right now.
I throw Rollins in that.
And Rollins, but he is easily one of your top guys. He is a top guy. You don't do what he is doing because that's it. Again, it muddies the water. It starts being like, oh
I
well,
I feel like in the background there is like it's okay if the women and the men do the same thing. As long as the men and the men don't do the same thing, and the women do the same thing. It's alright if you double dip with the men and the women. It's completely different. They're like the genders are different. Like, it's a completely different thing. It's brand new. Came out yesterday.
came out yesterday, brand new song. all around, I thought this segment was good though. I like what they're doing with Priest. I feel like this is maybe not a face turn, but he's turning away from full on heel. He's gonna be a little bit more honorable at least. Maybe be a standalone guy. Maybe go back to being a little bit more of the well, I like to go out and I like to party and I'm gonna live forever. And the reason why I'm living forever is because I'm a rock star type thing, rather than just being the again the de facto leader of the Judgment Day because there's no Rhea.
You, you don't find this face turn a little abrupt and annoying? Like, what's the catalyst for this?
Rhea
Just
leaving.
one day he just didn't want to cheat anymore.
Truthfully, the catalyst is Drew. And he's kind of the catalyst in all of this, which is why Drew is so important to everything.
I don't know.
He's
I'm not buying that. I'm over with Drew. I absolutely love it.
that,
I don't buy that.
but everything that he's saying, like even like because he's throwing the little jabs at Priest, and it's one of those things where again, this goes kind of with how Karrion Cross's whole thing is. Well, am I really losing if I'm forcing everyone to change? Like, yeah, I might be losing matches, but who cares if I lose matches? I was on WrestleMania. I did this. Everything that I've said is going to happen is happening. And I think that's a really cool thing that, for one thing, that Drew McIntyre is doing right now. And it's also really cool that that's how they're building Karrion Cross with his promos. Like I said, his digital promo where he said, have Ray and Dominic mended fences? Nope. Okay. Is Shinsuke Nakamura still a man without honor? Yep. Is Drew McIntyre still losing his mind? He's absolutely still losing his mind. So it makes it very cool. Like, hey, I might not be winning matches, but I'm ruining all of their lives. And this is a little bit along that line, along those lines, I think, with Drew, where he's poking the bear at everybody. And I think again, let's get Priest off of the heel gimmick because Drew might not be able to beat the whole Judgment Day, but he can beat Damian Priest. He has beaten Damian
At,
Priest.
at Clash at the Castle.
Maybe.
That's what
It
I think.
seems like that's what they're
I
building
think that's
towards.
what they're going towards. But I think it's kind of abrupt. He was super heel when he was tag team champion, world champion. It's almost like I don't want to cheat anymore. I can do this my own. I don't know. I want a catalyst. I want a reason why he changed.
I think this is more them giving seeds to it. He's still kind of heel. He still wants them to take care of business, and I like the fact that they had to hug it out last week. I think this is more seed planting, and either I'm not saying he's going to lose the title, but he might lose the match because of JD or Finn or something like that, and that's going to be the point where we go kind of full bore on it, and I
And
think that's a little bit better.
I do like that coming out of this Raw, you have Judgment Day being number one contenders. I think that really elevates them. But I was afraid that Finn Balor was going to get left to the wayside here, and I like how they're elevating JD McDonough a little bit here. So I really really like this because I feel like JD's turned into a jobber with a giant forehead, and
Which,
I'm
by the
glad
way,
that
when they came out for their entrance with the black light on, it looked like he still had the big bruise on it.
um, so I thought that was really really well done, and I dig this Carlito insert into it with them having their heat. I like that, like between the two of them. I'm afraid what they're going to do is have the Judgment Day turn on Damian, and then Carlito's going to take his place. And I think that takes the Judgment Day from here to here.
That
And
is definitely I don't want that to happen at
I
all.
don't want that to happen.
Truthfully, and I don't know if it moves. I don't know how it moves the needle. I think we're gonna find out that maybe Dom isn't as hurt as we're thinking, and maybe Dom takes over.
I would dig that. And if they give him a good push where he starts really winning matches and like lie, cheat, steal, do whatever it is you want to do, like become Eddie Guerrero, that's fine. But become Eddie Guerrero. Like in all that lying, cheating, and stealing, he was an awesome wrestler. So,
Well, like,
and now
what
that
would
I think
happen
he's on the same,
if they all turn on Priest and Dom goes on to win, let's say, the IC title, but he wins the IC title full on cheating, like not just him cheating, like the Judgment Day is out there. They beat the crap out of whoever is the champion, but like he just keeps winning. And
the
now we have to view this a little bit as, oh, he's actually a force.
I'm all for it as long as he continues to show that he's actually a good wrestler too. Because I think that you just being worthless and only winning because everyone's cheating for you, it's 4-on-1 every single time. I want him to start leveling up where he's also the reason why he's the leader and the one getting this is that he might be able to beat every single person in a one-on-one match in that group. And that's where it's believable. I think that's what, like, there's no reason for all of them to prop Dominic up like that if he isn't showing that he's the baddest ass of them all.
Yeah, I think that works how you said it.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Other than that,
I was nervous there.
yeah, but I got nervous with it, how you said it. All right. Other than that, we have some other advances. Just two from each division. Io Sky won against Shayna Baszler. I thought that was actually a really good match too.
It's probably match of the night.
I really really liked it. I'm a big Shayna Baszler fan, and Lyra Valkyria advances again. I think this could be a situation where Lyra really might win the Queen of the Ring, and I think that would be a good push for her. I know we just talked about that, so I'm not going to delve too much more into it, but I think that could be a thing. Other than that, we have Gunther beating Kofi and Jey Uso advancing as well. I think this just goes along with what we've said in that it's probably going to be Jey Uso winning the King of the Ring at this point. I feel like you're right. I think Jey is the one more in need of this King of the Ring tournament win.
I think particularly if you have Jey over Tama Tonga, that pays off. Heyman giving him that funny look. It pays off. It pays off a lot of stuff. It just makes so much sense for it to be Jey. He's so over right now. He needs a win. He's losing so everybody.
And he needs a big win, not just a WrestleMania win. He needs like a title, so to speak.
Well, I mean, everyone knows that Uso versus Uso match wasn't what it should have been. That
He even
win
said it.
isn't the win. Yeah, like everyone's calling it out, and things change. It was like 12 minutes. What are you gonna do in 12 minutes? Uh, so I get that. I do want to say real quick with Gunther winning, like his crab really doesn't do it for me. Like, what's your thought? Like, I don't want to nitpick too much on Gunther. He's a phenomenal star, but I don't buy the full crab with him doing it. Like, it just doesn't seem right.
So I think so. I'm gonna say this, and this is my shot across your nose, so to speak. I think it's because you're so high on the elevated.
No, I don't think that's what it is at all. I understand why you went there. There, he is so big. You know, you make that the Cobra clutch and just like turn the person around. I'm actually more into it. I just think he looks weird doing it because he's so much bigger than everybody else.
So when he switched it up for the single leg, though, I liked it.
Yeah, that was better.
It
But
looked
like
it looked a
the
little
shot,
bit cleaner.
if you look at him on the shot of him doing it, he's so much bigger than Kofi. It looks awkward. And I don't know. There's just so many other submission moves he could do. Like, I wouldn't mind a reverse bear hug from him and get that as something that actually gets him. The torture rack.
Well, I think
Throw
that's
him up
why
on
I
the
like when he
shoulders.
does. I like that for one thing. I like that he does an actual sleeper hold. They don't call it a rear naked choke. They don't. They call it an actual sleeper hold, even though if it's the same damn thing.
Yeah.
This actually goes a little bit to something that I didn't get to bring up during while we were talking about AEW. This isn't a knock on AEW. This is a knock on wrestling in general. When did the sharpshooter become the only name that we call the sharpshooter by?
You're gonna trigger me here, Steve. You're gonna trigger me in a minute.
So my point on this is it was the Scorpion before it was ever the sharpshooter. Well before, and not just because of Sting. It was called the Sting adopted the Scorpion Deathlock.
I don't know. Well, in all honesty, I think you could honestly say that Bret Hart is the one that everyone remembers doing it. Even as high a caliber as Sting, he had other finisher moves where Bret's was the sharpshooter. He's the one that propelled it, and WWE won the Monday Night Wars. So I think that's kind of where you end up getting that
So my
name.
only argument though is as influential as Sting was to AEW specifically, you would think that if they did it on AEW, they would call it the Scorpion, right? Like I'm just throwing it out there. I know we're all just nitpicking at this point, and this is more one of those me and you going off on a side tangent that I think is fun.
Because you triggered me here, because I was in deep thought recently about this, and it drives me absolutely crazy when they call the crucifix bomb the razor's edge when Damian Priest does it and someone kicks out, because it's not the razor's edge.
No, it's the
It's the razor's
crucifix
edge.
bomb.
It's the crucifix bomb. It's not the perfect plex when
The
someone
fisherman
kicks out.
suplex.
It's a fisherman suplex, and like it's not the sweet chin music when someone hits a super kick, because those moves were
Not even a
special.
super kick anymore.
Well, but it is. It's a super kick.
Yeah.
It's just a kick. It's the super kick nowadays is, in my opinion, the same caliber kick as the big boot.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, that's what it is, and no one really uses the big boot as a finisher.
I would love it if they started, because WWE never called it the super kick for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Shawn and Marty were the Rockers, it was the thrust kick. And if they started calling it the thrust kick again, I would even be like, okay, cool. Like, the super kick is the finisher. The thrust kick is what you do to set up your finisher. And that was where Shawn was for the longest time, was he was throwing a thrust kick, and then he would do that teardrop suplex. And I love the teardrop suplex. I also understand why he stopped doing it.
There are certain people in the industry, even the DDT, right? Like, Jake did a DDT. Everyone else just dropped somebody on their head. Like, he did it differently. He perfected the move where you could not kick out of it. Razor Ramon Scott Hall perfected the crucifix bomb, and that's the razor's edge or the outsider's edge, whatever you want to call it. Mr. Perfect perfected the fisherman suplex, and that's why it's the perfect plex. Shawn Michaels perfected the super kick, and that's why it's sweet chin music. Though that's not really a perfect move, in my opinion. A lot of people kick out of the super kick in his matches, and not to disagree with it. Even the stunner, I can make a case that Stone Cold Stunner, not the stunner, but the Stone Cold Stunner, was perfected until he got a little bit beat up, and he wasn't quite the same guy later in his career. Because you can get hit with 15 rock bottoms in the same match and kick out of every single one of them, because that move was never perfected. The Crossroads, you can kick out of 3 of them in the same match, and because that move's not perfected. But you got hit with
that
one.
Move sucks.
It does. In theory, you get hit with one Stone Cold Stunner, and you're done. At the peak moment when he perfected it, and then when you kind of lose a step, that's when that kind of starts being a regular change. So I don't know. You triggered me. I don't even know where we're going anymore.
I'm so happy that we had this conversation though, because I was thinking about it today while I was watching some AEW stuff, and I was like, it's so weird that there's no such, like, they always call it the sharpshooter. It's not the scorpion, or like you always refer to it as the walls, not the Boston, or not the Lion's Tamer anymore. Realistically, even when he does the Lion's Tamer, they still kind of call it the walls, and it is 2 different moves.
They're actually 2 different moves.
They are actually 2 different moves. But now that we've had that rant, allow us to go on to a different.
Not sorry.
Allow us to go on to a different rant with
mail, motherfucker.
That's right. We do have a mailbag question. This one comes from our good friend Greg. We've known Greg for quite a while, and he wrote, "Who will be Uncle Howdy's first target? I think he or a member of his family will interfere in the Cody versus Logan Paul match, but who they go after will determine if they are face or a heel when they arrive." So, I will say this. I could see them interfering with the Cody Logan Paul match, just so that we don't get a clear winner. Well, we get a winner, but we get a winner so that everyone keeps their titles. We have still not determined whether or not this is going to be for the U.S. title. They have not differentiated that, and that would be a really, really good way for all parties involved to keep their belts. I think they're going to be a heel group. I think they're probably going to go to SmackDown. I know we kind of talked about this a little bit. Other than that, I could see them either attacking whoever wins King or Queen of the Ring, or they could attack LA Knight. That's just kind of where we're sitting. I know Showtime, you had a couple theories overall. I think they're going to be heels, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that they go heel overall. I agree essentially with everything you said. I think, like, to answer that question off the bat, I think they're going to be a heel, and I actually think this is what we were talking about earlier, right? There's no one believable that can go toe to toe with Cody that is out there right now, and someone who hasn't been here that has this aura around him that you could kind of see going against Cody that wasn't here to be kind of squashed by Roman over the last couple of times. So, and like having the Bray Wyatt aura around Eric Rowan could be that guy. And I can see them coming in there. And I love the idea of them DQing this match. And then, because I think that title versus title is dumb. I don't know why the U.S. title is involved in this match, other than that Logan Paul holds it. This whole match should just be Logan Paul going after the undisputed title. So in that situation, if they come down here and like actually lay waste to both of them, because like who doesn't want to kick the New Jersey of professional wrestling's ass? It's all the jealousy, and so I can actually see them taking them both down in this match. And it still leaves Logan Paul with Logan Paul. He's just the one that everyone kind of wants to punch in the face. And then you have them actually going after Cody and going in that route. I agree. I think they have to go to SmackDown. If they go to Raw, I think they're going to Raw. If they're not attacking Cody or Logan, they are going to attack Jimmy Uso. I think that's kind of the way you go about it. He's the perfect face for them to kind of start with. And then it's just him getting piled on. First, the Bloodline is all over him. Now the Wyatt Six is all over him. And so, kind of going that route, I think they do go to SmackDown because I think that's their way to go to SmackDown and feud with Cody. If they're not doing Cody, I think that the only ones that really make sense is LA Knight or maybe Orton and KO. But I think just so entrenched in the Bloodline feud right now that doesn't really make sense. So, but I think Cody's the perfect one for them to go after.
I think them going after Cody is perfect, and that kind of answers our own question of who goes after Cody at this point. That makes it hard for him to have to fight. Well, he's got to fight 6 of y'all. That's kind of a tougher fight.
That bridges the gap. That gives you somebody believable that maybe he does lose because he's not fighting one man. He's fighting superstition and 6 people. So like that allows to elevate that to a new level in that situation.
Well, that's our question. Folks, if you have questions, as always, all of our email addresses and social media will be in the descriptions below. If you are listening to us, you like what you're hearing, please hit follow, hit subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it is the most helpful thing you can do to this show. Michael, I always have a great time recording. This is fun as always. But, folks, it is late for us, and we have to bid you adieu. Have a good night.
Have a good one, guys. We appreciate you.